A lack of integrity is what is killing this Me Too thing. They don't want to take responsibility because once you're a victim, now anything you do is okay. Well, he did that or she did that because they were a victim. Of course, you don't understand. They're a victim. They're a victim. They're a victim. They're a victim. Puff found himself a woman that was freakier than him. You're a money hungry person. That's what you were. That's what you still are. And you're still a drug addict. All you come in. All you come in. All you come in. Can you put a one in the chat if you think the Me Too movement is over? I think this movement was necessary to change the perspective of men like me to understand that this stuff does happen. However, I think it's gone too far. Now people are abusing that in order to do this. And let me give you an example. One of the easiest examples is Cassie. Cassie never went to the cops. She went to a lawyer. And you know when she went to the lawyer? She went to the lawyer when New York introduced the law that allowed people to go back 20 years and said, okay, but we're only keeping this window open. So, for example, if you were assaulted, SA'd within the last 20 years, you have up until November of 2023 to file your lawsuit. That's when she did it. And you know where she was? She was living in her mother's basement with her husband and her two kids. One of her children that was named after Puff. She named her first daughter after Diddy. Oh, my bad. Stockholm syndrome. You know, you don't understand what it's like to be an abuse victim. And I'm like, listen, at what point are we going to hold people accountable? But I digress. That's a perfect example of somebody now claiming something that wasn't true. And you know how I know it wasn't true? Because I was there in the court every day. And you know who else didn't believe her? The jurors. If those 12 educated men and women who have life experience at an average age of 57 or 58 years old, all of them said, ah, they all called cat. They all said BS. This girl is lying. They did the same thing to Jane. You know, we see it. Where I was there, I was looking at the testimony. I was looking at the body language. I was seeing the contradictions. They lied. If the jury believed them, the jury would have found him guilty. They didn't. If the jury believed them, they would have found him guilty. They didn't. They were lying. And that's when this Me Too movement, to me, died. I think it died with the jury and Amber Heard. But that was the first stab wound. And then Puff's case just was a headshot. This movement is over. And it's sad because the movement was needed for people like me to come around in my thoughts and my understanding in life. But now it's being taken advantage of for freaky deaky. Cassie, you cheated on Puff with the whole entire football team. Like you were getting around. You were calling the escorts when he wasn't even in the country. You were doing all this stuff behind his back. You have guys that are now suing you. So if you want to be like that and that's your life, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you made those choices as an adult woman. And I don't want to hear about the whole, oh, she was groomed. 10 years. She made these choices for 10 years. And she also was going around and she was doing stuff with everybody everywhere. Some women are like that. Can we just say it? Can we just say some women are like this? Like the prosecutor literally said to the jury, you know that this was not consensual because nobody would want to be peed on. Yet the escort said she taught him how to do it. And have you done it before? I can show you, or I'll be your first golden shower. Like, what are we talking about? Some people do like this. And that's not bad or good. I'm just saying it happens. Puff found himself a woman that was freakier than him, even. And again, there's nothing wrong with being freaky. There's something wrong with when you chose to be freaky at 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and then when you're in your mother's basement later on, have consent regret and say, I was groomed and this and that, that's when we have a problem. These false claims of people killed the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement started off good because it was to teach people like me who had a specific way of thinking that, hey, have you considered this? Have you? Great. But now it's like a bunch of liars and consent regretters are turning around and not wanting to take responsibility for their own actions. They don't want to take responsibility because once you're a victim, now anything you do is okay. Well, he did that or she did that because they were a victim. Of course, you don't understand. They're a victim. They're a victim. They're a victim. They're a victim. So now you're a victim, so you don't have to actually really stand up and take responsibility for what you do in your life. So everybody wants to rush to be a victim. And I don't agree with it. I don't. And this thing has been twisted and warped. But you give something good to humans, they will find a way to screw it up. And that's what happened with the Me Too movement. Humans got something good that brought a different perspective, and then everybody abused it. And it got screwed up. And now it's dead. The Me Too movement is dead. Thank you, Amber Heard. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Jane Doe. There are real victims out there, and you're screwing it up for them. Cassie had the audacity to sit on the stand and lie on off. She already had $30 million in her pocket. What more did you want? Cassie has not had one penny that we know about that has been donated out of that 20 million from Puff, 10 million from the hotel. Not one penny donated to women's rights. Not one penny donated to battered women. Not one penny. You haven't made one charity. You haven't done nothing. You're a money hungry person. That's what you were. That's what you still are. And you're still a drug addict. You know how we know she's a drug addict? Because she's on a medication today. Well, up until the trial, she had her child now. But she was on a medication that either mimicked the effects or tried to get her off of the effects of the opioids that she's addicted to. But it's safe to take when you're pregnant. So she's taking basically a drug right now that is safe to take when you're pregnant, or was, because she just had the baby, that was safe to take when she's pregnant so she doesn't withdraw from the drugs that she's actually taking. She's ruining it for real victims. You have your 30 million. You didn't do one thing for real victims. You didn't do one thing for real trafficking victims. You didn't do one thing. You took your 30 million and you went with your trainer husband who you cheated on, Puff with, when he was paying the guy $70,000. Puff sent you those heartbroken emojis. Why would you cheat on me with the trainer? I paid this guy. It's somebody I actually paid, and you cheated on me with him, and you're married to him now, and you got 3 kids. Congratulations. Why don't you go and do something for women if you're such a abuse victim? You're a liar. The jury saw it. I saw it. I was there. I saw it. The jury saw it. Everybody called Pat. And I'm not saying Puff is a perfect guy or even a good guy. I don't know him enough to even say anything like that. But what I am saying is, this Me Too movement was a good movement, and it's now being killed by the people who are taking advantage of it. There are real women and men out there that are victims, real ones. And this is the thing I want to bring awareness to, because people, they absolutely refuse to actually recognize that this is damaging the system for real victims. Because next thing you know, people aren't going to believe the next victim, and they could be a real victim. We need to always have integrity. If we don't have integrity, then what do we have left? You guys know I'm a believer. The word says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Why? Because people were swearing on God's name. I swear to God this, I swear to God this, honest to God. Wallahi, wallahi, wallahi. But the word says you shouldn't have to do all that. You should be a person that just speaks the truth, speaks straight down the middle. You shouldn't have to swear on God's name in order to make people believe you. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. That is integrity. And a lack of integrity is what is killing this Me Too thing. To me, it's already dead. To other people, maybe not. But a lack of integrity is what's killing this. It's killing it. Because everybody's here for clicks and views and clout and dollars and this and that. Guys, we have to be real with ourselves. We have to be real with each other. And that doesn't mean that every single thing that comes out of your mouth is going to be true. We're still human beings, and sometimes we make mistakes. But if you do make a mistake, own it. Own the mistake you made. And if you make a decision that you later on realize, you know what, that was a bad decision, don't give the power to Puff. Don't give the power to, oh, I was groomed or anything like that. Keep the power for yourself. Because as soon as you start becoming a victim, you lost all power. You lost all power. I say, I'm actually glad for it because life happens for me. It doesn't happen to me. I'm glad for it because why would I give that power away to that circumstance or that thing that happened to me? Why would I do that? I'm going to continue to say for the rest of my life, however many breaths I have left, that I'm glad for my past and I'm going to use that to make me more powerful in the future. When they asked Cassie on the stand, do you love Sean Combs? She said, I love our past. That is crazy to me. And she named her daughter after him, Frankie, which is crazy as well. Guys, being a victim is up to you. It's actually only up to you. If there's anything that this Me Too movement taught us, it taught us that for people like me, have to be more aware of what's actually happening around you in your communities, in your neighborhoods. They got to be more aware. We got to be more aware. I take a responsibility for that. However, what it's also taught us is if you give an inch, they'll take a mile. And then it ruins it for the real, actual victims. I'm not always aware. I'm glad for the Me Too movement, but I'm also glad it's dead.